Today, we are going to be looking at the all-important question, what is music? We will be doing this by taking a brief look at the history of music and seeing how we and it coexist and how it can be considered a living entity of its own. To some, music is simply sound, a wave that is translated by the brain after passing through a solid, liquid or gas into the ear. The less cynical of us believe that it is anything and everything we can hear, from the beat of a drum to the tweet of a bird. To others, it needs form and structure and must be created intentionally. To give music definition would be to limit it to mere words. Music deserves better than this, but still, people feel the need to try and quantify it. So, if music can indeed be described or explained to somebody, where should we begin? If we are to believe that sound is just waves, it brings to mind one serious and always challenging question. If a tree falls in the forest and nothing is there to hear it, does it make a sound? Much as light cannot be seen until it is reflected off something and bounced into the eye to be processed by the brain, surely sound is inaudible until it eventually reaches an ear. It is worth taking into consideration, however, that sound, as it is a wave, will never disappear. Once a sound has been created, it will diffuse and get weaker, but never diminish completely. It is like placing a single drop of food dye in the ocean. Now, let's go back to the beginning of time. Music has existed in some form since the universe began, depending on whether or not you subscribe to the Pythagorean Musica Universalis theory. And even our planet Earth has the ability to create beautiful music and sound. This has been going on since a time before music even had a name, and will continue to go on long after we are gone. Music is an entity in its own right. It was born billions of years ago and has undergone a series of evolutionary changes. It started as sounds with no structure or meaning, such as the whistling of the wind or the ferocious roar of volcanoes and earthquakes. And as planet Earth developed, the life that was evolving on it created its own music, as wildlife began to thrive and form its various methods of communication. In the early days of man-made music, the earliest form of which is believed to have been singing or chanting, music held a great importance to the evolution of man, aiding in the development of our communicative skills in the form of speech, and leading to the creation of the first musical instruments, drums of wood and skin and whistles made from bone. It is believed that these early musical instruments were used to mimic natural sounds, perhaps to make the player feel closer to nature and the world around them. Not only were these instruments used in a social manner, but it is also believed they were used in activities such as hunting, to communicate with each other, and in battle to intimidate one's opponent. Since the earliest instruments were made during a time before man had a written language, one of the oldest, a bone flute, is believed to be over 40,000 years old. It goes without saying that early music would have been very promiscuous, with no written music theory, and must have been improvised. This was an amazing and arguably the most impressive achievement in musical history, due to it being the first time man intentionally crafted music using instruments. As people discovered more ways of creating noise, music became an important part of everyday life, aiding in religious ceremonies, providing entertainment, and making the world a more vibrant place to live. Since the arrival of man, music has rapidly advanced from the use of these simple rudimentary instruments to a vast palette of sounds. Instruments are constantly being adapted to modern life and have become more or less technical over the years. After the work of the Pythagorean Brotherhood, there have been many changes in music. This is more prominent in the West, and as written music and music theory became more popular and universal, there were new and exciting instruments being developed that utilized these common methods. Music has played a strong role in the development and advancements of many technologies, including space exploration. As man developed further and made discoveries such as electricity, we began to explore a whole new chapter in the life of music. Thanks to these developments in music technology, we could now record music. Better yet, we could broadcast it too. The first radio broadcast, other than Morse code, was believed to have been made by a Canadian inventor, Reginald Fessenden, in 1906. Despite his amazing achievements, he was largely forgotten, and the radio did not become popular until the 1920s. Music had now become available to the masses, anywhere, anytime, as long as you were fortunate enough to own a wireless. Music, like any living thing, has a lifespan of sorts. It has long been at the mercy of fashion, and as things fall in and out of popularity, they are eventually left behind and replaced by the latest craze. Music has to evolve to exist. If we had no original music or ideas, we would get bored. And so in a sense, music demands creativity and experimentation. If we look at the Dadaist movement, we can see how music can be created differently, by random act, for example, picking lyrics out of a hat, or through improvisation, where music is unpredicted and never repeated, unique. Then we have intentional writing, where an idea or concept is deliberated over and given consideration and meaning. All of these methods seem to present us with very different results, and at times can even cause a divide between genres. These divides can result in violence, such as the Brighton riots in 1964, when over 1,000 youths gathered on a beach for a night of violence between the mods and rockers and defiance towards the police. As instruments and music have developed and more genres have emerged, from classical to jazz, rock to folk, those of us already familiar with these genres would find it easy to identify one from the other. However, somebody with no previous knowledge of music would not be able to categorize it, but could still translate its timbre or feel a particular emotion upon hearing it. It is almost as if man has a predisposition to react a particular way to certain sounds, much like a mother waking to the sound of a baby crying, or smiling in reaction to another person's laughter. Research at the Imperial College of London has proved that there is a direct correlation between what we hear and its effects on our physical and mental state. Since the time of written music, there have been various ways of understanding it. Some people simply learn the theory and practices. Often, this can lead to a pupil developing the same views and prejudices of their tutor, leading to limitations in their writing skills. Others just play music with no knowledge of music theory. Both methods are extremely important in the advancement of music. While one method understands what music is and passes that knowledge on through generations, the other creates freely without the constraints of musical law and a limitless potential to experiment and explore. Music has also given an identity to different countries and races. For example, if we look at the jazz movement during the 1920s, we will notice that most of the major pioneers of jazz were black, such as Charles Buddy Bolden or Joe King Oliver. These were turbulent times when racism was still rife, yet music seemed to traverse the races, with the popularity of jazz increasing. It was a common interest that people could agree on, regardless to the colour of their skin. Music knows not of race, religion, colour, nor age. Anyone from any background can create beauty and love, show anguish or pain, and communicate without the need for language through music. The Western world has seen the most changes in music, while the East has kept a more traditional approach. Much like the evolution of man, music is regional, with different parts of the world developing their own styles and traditions, from the English folk tales of heroism and battle to the ancient art of Mongolian throat singers, who sing to the mountains and trees. So powerful is the attraction to music that some people will risk their lives simply to play. This can be seen in Iraq with the Iraq Youth Orchestra, a group of young adults that meet in secrecy to play classical music on Western instruments in a culture where the West is shunned. We can also look at the current war on music in Mali, a country that relies on music as one of its main sources of income, that has recently had a ban on music put in place by Islamist militants, yet still they play, risking everything. We must consider the ramifications of an act such as this. Mali has always had a relationship with music, and to deny them this is to take away their identity. It changes who they are, how they live, work, rest, and play. Music has also been used as a weapon of peace. In 1978, at the National Stadium, Kingston, in Jamaica, a concert was held called the One Love Peace Concert. The purpose of this concert was to try and unite two opposing political parties and end years of civil outbreak and war. Bob Marley famously asked the two opposing party leaders up on stage to shake hands in an attempt to display unity and equality. Sadly, this attempt failed to stop years of war, and it wasn't until 1981, during Bob Marley's funeral, that the two would shake hands again. So, we can see how music began, and how it's evolved, and how people have utilized the power of music. But what do we gain from its presence in our life? There are some who simply cannot live without music. It has the profound ability to help deal with loss or emotional pain. It can bring back memories. It can make you feel happy, sad, angry, or familiar. And recent discoveries have found that it can even act as a suppressant for serious physical ailments such as Tourette syndrome. It's a source of income, an escape, a way to express oneself, a way to communicate. It can connect thousands of people in an instant, and it has and always will be a part of our very existence. So we can see there is strong evidence to support the theory that music is a living entity. It has a face in its many disciples or musicians. It has a body in its vast catalogue of style and variation, and it even has a soul in its ability to communicate and move people on an emotional level. What we do know for sure is, as a species, we have developed an undeniable relationship with music that goes far beyond our current comprehension, and without it, we would not be who or where we are today.